The mayor of Whistler, British Columbia, thought he could squeeze some sweet, sweet social justice cash from a couple of oil and gas companies, which then hilariously blew up in his greedy face. But I think if you really care about carbon dioxide emissions, if you're one of those people that think those emissions are killing the planet, then it's time for you to ban Whistler. The drama all unfolded while I was over in Poland last week covering the United Nations Global Warming Summit, but this slow-moving train wreck started much, much sooner. Over a month ago, November 15th, 2018. That was when Whistler Mayor Jack Crompton sent a letter to Calgary-based oil and gas company CNRL complaining that Whistler's taxpayers are paying 100% of the costs associated with so-called climate change events like drought, flooding, and extreme weather. Crompton's letter asked the oil company to pay into the cost of climate change being experienced by Whistler, including a $1.4 million investment in community wildfire protection activities for 2018, because as you know, there were clearly no wildfires in BC before CNRL came along, obviously. Now, this whole ridiculous stunt was part of an environmental NGO Blackmail campaign. According to the Vancouver Sun, more than a dozen other BC municipalities recently voted to join a campaign led by West Coast Environmental Law to demand that oil and gas companies chip in on the cost local governments are paying for quote-unquote climate change. The whole petty performance went up in smoke like a backyard tire fire. You see, when CIBC found out about what the mayor of Whistler had done, it scrapped the energy portion of its annual investor conference held in Whistler next month. Energy companies have been coming to the resort town for over 20 years to participate in the bank's annual conference, but not this year. A little too much blackmail and a little too much blame for them. And you know me, I think fossil fuels are excellent. They're making life easier, better, more prosperous, safer, longer, and more sanitary for all of peoplekind. But the mayor of Whistler, well, he thinks fossil fuels will be the end of us all. And if that's the case, and if the transfer of money from one climate offender to the climate victim is all that's necessary to fix this problem, then I think the mayor of Whistler owes us all a sweet, sweet pile of cash. Let's start with the resort town of Whistler itself, shall we? As our friend Gregory Thomas, formerly of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, so succinctly pointed out on Twitter, 25 to 30% of Whistler's overnight visitors fly in from Europe, Asia, South America, and Australia, generating thousands of tons of greenhouse gas. Instead of attacking Alberta, should Whistler's mayor ask Justin Trudeau to ban overseas visitors from Whistler? It's all right here in the 2017 Whistler Tourism Report. Look at this infographic here. Outside of Canada, Whistler's main target market for visitors are those that come from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. And those folks, they're not coming in on low-carbon canoe either. Even more ironically, the secondary market for Whistler includes Germany, Mexico, Japan, oil-producing Texas, and of course Canada's Texas, Alberta. Whistler needs Alberta. They want our money, and they aren't exactly turning us away at the check-in desk because we're busy ruining the planet. Now are they? What I'm saying is just to get to Whistler and for Whistler to target these international visitors, to covet these international visitors, really, there's a heck of a lot of fossil fuels involved, and that's just for flights and automobile transportation alone. That doesn't include keeping people warm at a ski resort, keeping the resort well groomed and usable, or upkeeping the grounds of all those golf courses. That doesn't include housing and cooking and cleaning for hundreds of thousands of international visitors every single year. You see, Whistler's addicted to fossil fuels. Whistler doesn't exist as we know it without reliable, plentiful, cheap fossil fuels. In fact, Whistler's greenhouse gas emissions spiked 4% last year, and now the mountain resort town is no longer on pace to meet their 2020 emissions targets. Whistler is a climate criminal, if you think there's such a thing as a climate criminal. And about that money-grubbing mayor who sent his letter demanding social justice tithing from an oil company to fight the so-called impacts of climate change in his town. Well, he's not exactly Johnny Bicycle himself. You know what he did before he was the self-righteous, hypocritical mayor of a high-end BC resort town? Let's check out his LinkedIn, shall we? Before Crompton entered municipal politics way back in 2011, fossil fuels gave the mayor a very comfortable, upscale life. According to his LinkedIn, he is still the CEO at something called ridebooker.com. Now, according to the website for ridebooker.com, they offer high-quality ground transportation across North America. You can find anything from a shuttle from the Vancouver airport to Whistler on their website, or hourly limousine rates in Montreal. During much of that very same time, Crompton was also the general manager of Transportation Whistler. Nearly 13 years he did that. And then before that, he was the general manager and owner of Whistler Resort Cabs, which he describes as a 25-car taxi company in Whistler, British Columbia, which he sold in 2008. I think Mayor Jack Crompton owes us all a bit of a payout for the 15-plus years he spent making sure visitors to Whistler and travelers around the world could access convenient fossil-fueled vehicles to get to and fro. Look, I don't make the rules about this sort of stuff. Apparently, Jack Crompton does, and his rules state that one must pay for their climate crimes. If you think fossil fuels are killing the planet, then it might be time for you to ban Whistler. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Like I just mentioned in my video, I just came back from Poland where I was covering the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Now, to see all of my coverage from Katowice, Poland, and to help cover the cost of my trip to go there to bring you the other side of the story, go to rebelun.com.